Thank you. I want to call to order the Water and Sewer Commission meeting of January 27th, 2020. It's now 6:30. First order of business is public forum. And seeing nobody, then let's move on to agenda warrants, abatements, approval as needed. And we'll start off with minutes of whatever you want to do, whether the minutes or the warrants, whichever you
Sure.
want to do.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of January 13th, 2020 as printed.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on those minutes? All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Unanimous. Okay,
Next, I'll make a motion, we accept the warrants as printed for January 27th, 2020 as follows. Osterman's delivery 1/7, $949.34. KP Law sewer privilege fee, $315. KP Law Old Worcester Road easement, $300. WB Mason office supplies, $6.57. Town of Charlton electricity, $27,848.19. Mass Waterworks Association membership renewal, $125. LaForte Electric, 165 Sunset Drive pump control changeout, $595. Viola, quarter ending December 2019 sludge overages, $7,865. EJ Prescott, connectors for meters, $268.48. WB Mason, office supplies, $10.67. EJ Prescott, meters and MXUs, $2,517.19, for a grand total of $40,844.
okay, we got a second on that?
I'll second it.
Questions?
This electric bill, I noticed it's for 3 months, but is that standard? I mean, 27,000, that's almost 10,000 a month, that's what we pay. I should know after all these years, but it just seems like a lot of money.
I think that's 4 months.
It's more like 4 months.
Yes, September, October, November, December.
Okay,
Okay, so it's
that
clear.
helps a lot.
No, and I agree with you, Paul. If it's 3 months, again, it would, would be tipping on that $8,000 to $9,000 a month fee, which it hasn't been that in many, many years. So, and especially with this new company that we are going with, it is more reasonable.
Plus, I thought we were getting some sort of lower rate because of the solar farms that exist in town, and this didn't seem lower.
Yes, if we were to pay National Grid's amount, it would have been $43,702. We pay $27,848, which is $15,800 savings.
And the National Grid bill was based on what, 13 cents a kilowatt?
I don't have those.
Okay, 'cause I
I'm
know-
not just running with the care, I don't
The
know.
most recent one we got was, but the last 3 have been more like 9 cents a kilowatt.
Right, right. Okay, okay. Peter, on the meters, MXUs, 2,500, how many units?
8 and 7, 8 meters, 7 MXUs. Just so it would make it 12 in-house each.
Oh, that's the discrepancy between the two?
Yeah, I
So you
just
could
wanted to-
balance out to have 12 on hand?
Yeah, sometimes Peter Starkus goes to a house and changes just the MXU if it's not reading correctly, so they don't stay equal all the time.
Good enough. All right. What did we need the KP Law for sewer privilege fees?
The North Sturbridge Road extension?
You sure?
No.
Oh, I thought it was, doing the .6 to make it.
It's a
equal to
rewrite
sewer
of the-
connection fee. The commercial, wasn't it? I thought it was for the commercial connection.
It wasn't when we reviewed the policies
Yeah,
of that?
that's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
That's, okay, that was the total policy.
Yeah.
yep.
Do they sell insurance now?
Why?
Policy, what policy?
All our sewer guidelines.
Okay, so we had them review them?
I was not involved.
When was this?
Yeah. Remember how,
Oh, this was way back when, correct, when you and
Oh, no,
Alex?
that was a different one. This was, I thought this was all the sewer privilege fees, and then we had the discussion about how we wanted to do it and if we wanted to change it, right? Okay.
That's the one that's on hold.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Okay, and what's
Can I
on
see the
hold, sir?
invoice?
You know the policy guideline book we have, and I wanna say it's the data privilege fee, we decide for commercial users, we're gonna multiply by 0.6. And we wanted to
Yes.
see if we were gonna do that with sewer,
Okay,
but sewer guidelines are already set in place. and
well, they're already
we're
set in
gonna have-
place, but the .6 is already
Right.
i-
So
in
who's
play
gonna do
there
some
with the
research?
Title V.
That's what I believe that was for.
So KP Law did what? They reviewed them and,
That I don't know the end result, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because it goes back like, a few months ago,
that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
September 20th, 2019.
That's when they did the work?
Yes.
They need a new bookkeeper.
You know, it's the, you remember that, right, Zach? Let's get you involved here. Okay, all right, it's not
I
gonna
don't,
kill us.
wasn't involved.
And the Old Worcester Road easement, is that
That
for
was
the,
Dave
That was
Peters.
the Dave Peters property, where we had to switch the easement from the incorrect side of his property
okay,
to the correct side
no,
of the
and
property.
that had to be recorded,
Correct.
because it was
Well, they drew the easement.
mistakenly
Wrong corner.
recorded. Okay, so that's all corrected.
Correct. They drew the release deed or whatever we had to do
Okay.
to release that.
Okay. All right. All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'll make a motion, we accept the senior abatements in the total of $733.46.
I second that.
Okay, we have any discussion on those abatements? Which in reading this, because we still have some flat rates out there. What I mean by flat rates is one of the original ways of charging people. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain, okay. So we have, I guess my question is, how many of those are there out there?
I can find out.
Which ballpark?
400?
4 out of the 650?
Yes,
Okay,
ballpark.
4 under the older.
400 will be flat
Fixed.
rate, and
Yep.
220 or 230 are metered.
right, right.
Oh, okay, so maybe 300. Maybe 300 are flat, maybe we're half and half.
Half and half.
Maybe we're getting that high now.
Okay, okay. All right, so minutes, warrants, abatements, done. All right, schedule appointments at 6:40. That sounds like you, Zach. You gotta wait 1 minute.
Oh, wait,
Step right up.
the clock is wrong.
All right. Review the MOR for December. Something to note, the plant personnel. Drew Allard today passed his grade 3 exam, so he's no longer a grade 2, he's a grade 3 wastewater operator.
Congratulations to
Yeah.
him. Does that mean it's gonna cost us any more money?
No.
Let's check.
Health and safety, no accidents, incidents. Monthly safety checklist was completed. Training for December was bloodborne pathogens, safety in the workplace. Compliance, in December, we had a daily maximum zinc exceedance. We ran additional zinc testing during the month that was below the limit, therefore the monthly average for zinc was below. The first sample taken was before the pilot was running. The second sample taken was after the pilot was running. So that was the reason for the lower second sample. Operations and maintenance. Monthly maintenance checklist was completed. full generator load exercises were completed. Critical alarms were tested, no issues. Collection systems, all pump stations alarm tests were completed. Pump station weekly full load generator tests were completed. MTAs were sampled on December 8th and the 25th. On December 9th, 4 of the Rayco cellular dialers were changed out to the new Sensiphone landline dialers. We did all the wiring and programming in-house. On the 20th, MTA 6 West had a high wet well level. We responded to the station, found both of the pumps were running, but they weren't actually pumping anything. We were able to get both pumps functioning before the wet well overflowed. The issue was probably due to a plugged bubbler line, which is the way that station senses the level. There's a bubbler system. Sometimes when those lines plug up, it gives it a false reading. A plugged line would simulate a higher level in the wet well than actual. So the pumps would run for longer than they were supposed to, and the pumps would go airbound, which is what we found at the station. We were able to prime the pumps and get them back up and running, and we had Slims and Berthium pump out the wet well while they were there. Grinder pump calls. On the 21st, we had 35 Hollywood Drive, high wet well level, trip breaker with a clogged pump. We received a call that the sewer had backed up into the basement of the resident. The breaker inside the house was tripped. When the breaker was reset, the pump still wouldn't run. When the cover of the tank was removed, it was discovered that it was filled with applicators. 2 buckets full of the applicators were removed from the tank, as well as needing to be removed from the cutter blade of the pump. Once this was done, we were able to reset the system and get it up and running again. This was previously an upgraded system. The 26th, 165 Sunset Drive, the maintenance light and alarm. The maintenance light kept coming on. It was an older system, so we just had an upgraded system. We had the system upgraded by LaForte Electric.
Zach, going back to Hollywood, so was there a violation there issued?
So from what we could tell, what was in there was old, and the property is rented, I believe. So,
Yeah, but it was an upgraded system.
correct.
So,
There was no damaged equipment. It was just more of our time cleaning out the
okay, all
climate.
right, but
clean.
when people do connect, they do get a printout of do's and don'ts.
Yes, I believe so.
And
But,
it-
yeah,
And if, I also believe that if we get called to a call and some of the don'ts are found that someone did them,
yeah,
that we have the single grace, and then next time there's a fee.
yeah,
Okay, so
okay.
this is, of course, is this the first strike
I
at this
believe,
location?
I believe so.
I believe
Okay.
I mean,
so.
that's on the office, not on
Right,
Zach.
right, and I mean, you know,
So I believe this is the first strike.
right,
And
and
this
Lane,
this will get documented in our file, so if it happens again in 6 months or a year, then they'll get this, then they'll get,
Do you send them
Charge.
something saying, yeah,
okay, because the landlord certainly can talk to its tenant, says, hey,
Correct.
this happens again, you're responsible.
Yeah.
You gotta move.
And this did happen during work hours, so it was no overtime that would be billed to the town, but
Thank you.
it's still an inconvenience. For dig safes, we had 2 dig safes marked out in December. For additional remarks, back in July, the COMAG clarifier repairs were completed on the second train of COMAG, and that was put back into service. It's recently discovered that one of the new components already failed. The failed part was a shaft that goes through the gearbox and attaches to the torque tube. This torque tube, everything rotates on. You could see some pictures below of the brake. Because of this, we had to take that train of COMAG offline, so we're basically running on half capacity of our COMAG system. And this is until we can get the necessary repairs made. We found no cause for the failure to occur when we pumped out and cleaned the clarifier out. The manufacturer said that the break looks like it's due to horizontal force. This doesn't seem possible due to the fact that that tube that it rotates is on a guide post, which limits the motion horizontally. So we don't believe it's something that's anything we could have done. We feel like it's more of a manufacturer issue. The manufacturer quoted us $1,268 for the new part. We've asked if they'd cover some of the cost because we feel like it was a defective part. We've yet to hear back on them, if they'll cover any of this cost, or what the lead time of the part would be, because obviously we want to get this back up and running as soon as possible. They also said that they could make it out of a harder steel, but harder steel is sometimes more prone to cracking, or I don't know if that's the tensile strength is less.
More brittle.
Yeah, so they're also gonna let us know what they feel is the best fit for us.
Did it clean out the key?
Nope, the key and everything is still intact. The shaft that goes through the gearbox was still perfectly intact. The
Right.
gearbox was intact. The gearbox was still rotating, but when we looked down underneath the grating, you could see that the shaft had separated and the whole assembly that it attaches to dropped down about 2 inches.
So the picture here, this shaft you're showing us, that's where it snapped off?
Correct,
Yeah,
so
does seem like defective material.
that's how we feel.
How old is that shaft?
It's been in operation probably
2 months.
4 months, yeah, it hasn't been long. It was purchased at the beginning of last year, and once all the other repairs were made, it hasn't been running very long, so.
Is this a company that we have done business with before, or Viola has done business with before and continues to do business with?
Yeah, I mean, it's manufactured to their specs. It's not like something that we could go out and say, hey, can we pick up this from somewhere else? I mean, we could definitely have it fabricated somewhere else.
Yeah,
But-
either that, or stand behind it, or we're not gonna buy from you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like it's something that they should step up, but
Yeah,
we're still waiting to hear from
all
them.
right, some,
But, yeah, obviously, we don't want to drag this out too long because, with the springtime coming, we might see some heavy flows, and to be at half capacity is not really desirable for that.
no, you're right.
And that concludes the MOR.
How old is the other one?
What was this, the upgrade was 2009?
2010.
So,
So the other one is 10 years old, no issues.
So if you remember, I mean, what caused the problem last time is the whole torque
Twisted.
tube and the blade twisted. And this shaft that you can see with the keyway actually twisted about 45 degrees, right with the keyway.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
completely different issue last time.
For this, is that like an 1.5 or 2 inch shaft to just shear like that doesn't make any sense.
So the last one didn't shear, and as a result, it twisted and it broke the other thing.
Yeah,
Tom.
this part on the other, at the previous failure, didn't actually break apart.
Do we still
It just
have it?
twisted. That ended up getting going with the scrap. But,
It's twisted.
yeah. It was just it was odd that we saw such a complete different break. We knew it was something completely different. And when we cleaned out and got down there and saw that the mechanism that it rotates could be rotated by hand freely, we knew it wasn't something that caused an excessive torque that caused a break, so. So, unfortunately, we gotta deal with it, but hopefully they can meet us halfway even, so.
Zach, on the plant performance report, are you happy with those numbers?
Yeah, so some things I could point out is if you look at the total copper, the maximum daily, we're required to sample the metals once a month. So the one sample that we normally send out, we came back with a 21. Because of that 21 is above the monthly average, we decided to do an additional sample to make sure that we could get that number. We were, lower than that daily, the monthly average. So the other sample that was run during the pilot came back, I don't remember what the exact number was, but it was significantly lower. That brought the average down to comfortably below the 20 limit. So copper for that month was no issue. I feel like if this pilot does end up working out, we'll definitely see a benefit from the copper reduction as well. And for total zinc, you can see the maximum daily that we sent out was 149, where the limit was 142. Again, an additional sample below that 142 dropped the monthly average to comfortably below the limit. Other than that, the rest of the performance from the month looked really good.
The BODs seem to be in a very nice place.
Correct, yes.
Is that surprising?
No, we usually see just above detection limit for the BODs. The system does a pretty good job at removing the BODs, considering, some of the loads that it gets from the town. But
Don't we have in one of our EQ tanks, isn't one of the aerators down? Or is it working fine?
no, we
Well,
have
it's
all,
working, but it's not working fine.
no, we have all of our aeration up and running
Yeah,
properly.
but are they blowing small bubbles or big bubbles?
No, they're, I think by design, they're required to do coarse bubbles, which are larger bubbles. It's not as efficient as some of the smaller bubble systems were, but I think that's kind of the way the design was. I mean, there might be some larger tolerances than initially designed, but we've seen some pretty good results for BOD. BOD is primarily removed in the treatment before like ammonia removal. So you're more likely to see, low BODs before you see great ammonia removal, because the bugs kind of tend to remove BOD prior to removing like ammonia.
Okay.
So that's why we usually see some pretty good BOD numbers, even though sometimes we see higher ammonia values. So,
And we have all of our what do they call them?
RBCs
RBCs running. Is there
Yep.
6 of them in there?
is 10 in total.
2 outside and 8 in?
Yep,
And they're all running?
correct. We have all equipment in the facility running as intended, with the exception of that train of COMAG. So,
Do we need all of them running?
I mean, we could definitely do some sort of, we could do some testing to see if there's a requirement for it, or if we could turn individual ones off. But then you kind of get into a tricky situation where you have to keep the media fed.
Right.
Sometimes, it's just a little bit easier to keep them operational.
It's not like a light switch. You can turn them on and turn them off. You've got, like making the point about,
Yeah,
there's live organisms in there that need to be, in order for them to do their job, they need to be kept alive and
correct.
freshened up and ready to go.
Yeah, I think the benefits of
Nice.
turning them off might not be that high. I mean, there might be a little bit of an electrical savings, but the amount of time that it takes to reseed, similar to what the treehouse is doing, the amount of time that it takes to build up the population, it might not be
Okay.
worth turning them off.
No, So,
Speaking of saving electricity,
that's right.
so,
Broke.
Have you been up there since they started doing?
yeah, Pete and I went up
Friday,
Friday,
no,
was it?
2 Fridays.
Yeah.
Did you like what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a complex system. The technology is pretty extensive, but if they can operate it properly, then I think they should see some really good results.
So you think it's gonna work?
Yeah, I mean, the theory behind it is well proven, but it's like anything, you know, you have to keep up with it, and I think they, from talking with them, they're willing to invest the time and money in, you know, keeping it maintained and, you know, staffed properly, so I think they have a good thing going.
Beautiful. All right, Zach, continue on if you got anything else to continue
Well,
on.
that's it, if you, unless you have any questions, I actually should point out, the budget for 2018 to 2019. We did, exceed the annual amount by $1,249.02. Some of that was due to, you know, some certain high expense items. Back in April, we had 2 chemical pumps that we sent out for repairs. That was a little bit on the pricey side, but we were able to relocate the caustic system and, you know, create a safer work environment by doing that. So I think it was money well spent. And, you know, it kind of fluctuates month to month. As you can see, this year, 2019 to through 2020, we're under by roughly the same amount. So it kind of goes in waves. So,
Now, why do you need ice? I've noticed one time, the items purchased was ice. Did you use that for testing?
ice,
I'm just curious. No?
unless it was ice melt in.
No,
that's-
ice.
That's for the coolers.
Cool as a Gatorade? What, cool as a,
I
what?
don't think we purchased ice.
No,
No?
our samples are kept in a refrigerator, so there's
Okay.
no need for ice for,
I don't have to go digging, but I
Yeah,
remember
I
seeing
mean,
ice,
I've-
yeah, yeah,
happy to.
I don't recall seeing any ice at the plant.
okay.
How long ago?
You never know.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
some,
2009.
Well, definitely be 2009 forward, yeah.
actually, if it was long enough ago, the laboratory that we used to use for toxicity, Enthalpy Analytical, they used to supply us with coolers to fill up the bottles with. And when they were filled up, they would, a lot of facilities would throw bags of ice in the samples in the cooler.
Okay. I don't-
But with the lab that we use now, all the samples are still kept in the refrigerator, so.
No, not a big deal when we're spending $40,000 a month to keep that place running. Zach, thank you very much. Anyone have any additional questions for Zach? No? Okay,
Thank you.
good enough.
Thank you.
Okay, I have exactly 7 PM. Mr. Pucci, do you know if he's coming?
Said he was. It's pretty straightforward, so I think we can start. You know, unless you want to wait for him to get here, we can move on to
I
something
guess,
different.
straighten me out here on exactly why this has come up is because of a 6-month review that we had
Yes.
stated?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I
So-
guess, what are the findings been?
So the motion that was made for Mr. Pucci's privilege fee of 1 EDU was that we were gonna revisit and check the water calculations for 6 months to make sure that they were under 200 gallons per day. And Mr. Pucci has been sending us a table that has his readings from his water meter that show his average gallons per day was much less than that. You're looking at anywhere from 33 gallons per day to, I think the highest was 64.
Okay,
So again, I'm not sure any action is necessary, it's just kind of closing the loop on what was done approximately 6 months ago. Back August 5th of 2019.
okay, so, I guess, maybe Mr. Cantwell could make a motion that no action be taken at this time?
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion that no action is taken at this time on this property. I don't know the
Second.
addresses.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any further discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, I said aye, I'm sorry.
Okay, so 3 ayes, 2 abstentions.
All right,
Very good, done.
see enough.
All right. We're going to move on to new business, which is Stevens Park Road, MVP Action Grant.
So, I mean, as you're aware, the Stevens Park Road pump station requires quite a bit of work due to the poor water drainage in the area of the pump station itself. We have previously applied for an MVP action grant to kind of get the repairs covered under a round of grant funding from the MVP program. We applied once and got denied. We reevaluated, made some changes. Fuss and O'Neill, the engineers who are working the town through the MVP program, made some changes to the design. We reapplied, and we've subsequently been denied again, unfortunately. But I do believe that we do need to make some repairs at that pump station in this next construction season before we have some, I guess, serious problems from the electrical cabinet, I guess, toppling over, becoming disconnected. Can also help with some of the possible infiltration and inflow we may have into that pump station. So I was just looking for the board to give me some direction and maybe authorize me to get some quotes from a couple of local engineers to evaluate the pump station and create some type of, I guess, corrective actions that we can go out to bid with and make those repairs this summer.
Yeah, refresh my memory. I kind of, the figure $14,000 sticks in my head. If we haven't gotten any quotes yet, why am I thinking now that, did we get some quotes?
For just engineering or for repairs?
No, that was for the repairs. I don't think it included engineering. Because I remember Rob thinking it was a very high price for.
Yeah,
Well, that
I
was,
think it is high price, but it's a lot of work to be done there.
That was from the printout of,
So
Peter
the-
had a grant.
yeah, so the grant we went for was approximately 120,000 or 100,000, and we would have had to pay 25% of that. So maybe that's where you're coming up with some figures, is we would have had to contribute 40,000.
40 grand was
We were,
something.
Didn't
our
we-
contribution for the 25% was gonna be 40,000.
Right.
I thought we already approved an engineer to go look at this site and,
Oh, we got a quote, which was,
yeah, that was like 40,000 or something,
Yes.
does that make sense?
no, it
That
doesn't
was-
make sense, but that's
Yeah,
what it
that's
was.
what it was,
That
40,000,
was one of the
right,
quotes,
yeah,
so
all right.
I was gonna go out and try and get a couple
Yeah.
different quotes to bring back to you from,
That's a good idea.
and then see what we can do.
Right. And one of the issues, there's an intimate stream that's from me to you,
Yeah,
away from this
I went
thing.
down there and took a look at it, it's a
Okay,
disaster area.
and what has happened is,
Yeah,
one of
it's
those
bad.
tough winters to where there was water flowing, and then the water stopped, and then they had a hard freeze, all of a sudden you had all this heaving, which includes the electrical box there, and it's,
Yeah, the disaster.
I mean, judging by some of the sonotubes that were put in there, I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
that got started on the right path.
right, the whole thing
anyways.
needs to be raised.
Yeah.
It needs
Yeah,
to be
it's just, I
somehow,
don't think, I mean, you put in sonotubes that are only 2.5 feet deep in an area that's gonna have
high water,
heavy frosties and
yeah.
They're in trouble day one.
I mean, is there a law or rule that we have to have it professionally engineered? I mean, can we just lift it up a bit and kind of?
Again, the issue there is doing work within 100 feet of a wetland.
So another issue is if it's over a certain amount, if it's over $10,000, you have to go, or 15,000, you have to go out to bid. In order to go out to bid, you need a decent set of specs, and I think to do it correctly, we need the engineer to draw up, to design it, draw up the specs, so we can put those specs out to bid.
Yeah, but like,
Because it's not
It runs
gonna be
into-
a $10,000 repair.
no, the wetland issue just shoots you in the foot right away and gets you going in the wrong direction cost-wise, so.
The engineer, what'd you say, their name was Fuss and what?
Fuss and O'Neill,
Fuss and O'Neill.
yes.
For them to come up with a number, they did come up with a number, didn't they?
Yes.
What did they use for specifications, or they just
Nothing that you're gonna wanna use.
playing dots?
They were, again, applying for the grant, so it was a very conceptual number. They didn't really do any design work.
Okay.
They didn't do any hands-on engineering.
Right.
They just kind of put their past practice and knowledge together to come up with a figure that they could present to the grant people for approval.
Yeah. Yeah, again, without the wetland there, you could get your backyard construction guys in there and probably punch the thing out, but the issue is getting that wetland squared away.
And again, and also the procurement issue of how tight do you want your bid specs to make sure you get the
Right.
job done correctly, so we don't then end up here again.
Yeah, and if it's done in July and August, there's not gonna be any water running
Correct.
from the intimate stream, so you can certainly get it done. All right, let's continue on as
Was
far as,
did they give a reason why they rejected the grant? When there was certain criteria that we weren't meeting or something like, did they give us, something to go on to
Yes.
apply again with
So-
different figures?
So the Municipal Vulnerability Program, which is the MVP program we're trying to qualify under, is based around climate change issues that we're having, so they want to see green energy solutions being used. So if you look at the grants that are getting approved from the MVP program, it's all roadway redesigns with stormwater issues where they're, instead of repairing the drainage, they're doing away with drainage and doing local recharge areas and green spaces where any water runoff goes into localized grassed areas to recharge versus going into a storm drain and 2 miles down the road. So they're really looking for green solutions, and I think we could, again, we can hit on some of the climate change issues from the flooding and the temperature changes and what's happening there, but we can't really get creative enough to use a green solution
Put a
to
solar panel on it.
help solve the problems, yeah.
doesn't that runoff come from the turnpike? Yeah, the turnpike's only up the hill. It's up the hill.
I think there's a big field in
Yeah, it's-
between there,
there's
isn't
Yeah,
there?
there is a field in
There's
between
a
there.
lot of room in between there.
Yeah, there's a big solar field in there, where there's more runoff.
that, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think.
Again, I think, without a doubt, something's gotta be done over there, and,
I agree.
I certainly would like to see something done.
I'll make a
economically.
motion, we have Pete seek out a few bids and try and get us started on that path.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All right, so we all set on Stevens Park Road? And B is, I'm just crossing that out, B is now off. the,
All in favor?
It's off the menu.
Do you want to call for a vote?
All those in favor of the motion by Mr. Jennings and was seconded by Mr. Cantwell?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thanks for the reminder. Okay, moving into old business,
Okay.
year 220 budget.
So, again, you've previously reviewed the budget I prepared. It was not final because we're waiting for finalized figures from Donna Folio, the finance director. I met with her probably a week and a half ago after your last meeting. She told me that she won't have that information to finalize the budget till probably the end of last week or the beginning of this week. So I set up a meeting with her for Wednesday, January 29th, in 2 days, to review the figures, finalize the budget to present to you at our February 10th meeting.
if I'm available, I'd like to go with you to that meeting on the 29th. I know I've got some things going on. In fact, yeah, during the day, I should be okay.
Good.
Yeah. Anyone else can come along if they want.
Well, one more person. If two come, we have to post.
We'll let you represent us, right? I'm fine with that.
Really? Okay.
You do
Okay.
a great job.
No, I don't have a great
I'll
job.
send you a text at like 10 of 10 to remind you.
10 of 10 for the 10 o'clock meeting?
It's nice to be
Yeah,
local.
yeah, that's if I have my phone on, and if I choose to look at it, but,
Or if it's up by then.
yeah, no, I'm definitely up by then. In fact, I'll call you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't want that.
All right, superintendent's performance review.
All right, so at a previous meeting on October 21st, we discussed my performance review, and we handed out some copies of the review to complete. I just want to follow up and see if there's any, what the wishes of the board are, or how formal you want to be with the review. I guess the biggest thing I'm looking for is direction to move forward and maybe setting priorities of where you want me to focus the most of my time. Maybe we should do this as a goal-setting session separately, again, just to make sure that where I'm spending my time in the office is to get the stuff done that you want to see be completed. And the review is just kind of a second follow-up to that, so.
In this, and you would have a goal-setting meeting during the day, during the afternoon, early evening? How would you do
We could
that?
do it as part of our regular meeting. Because it would be the board's goals.
Okay,
Much like we used to, I mean, I kind of took the matrix that you had completed back in 2017, and we kind of reprioritized that and moved stuff around, and I've been still, I mean, a lot of that stuff is still ongoing, so I've still been going off of that. So we could revisit that and try and use that as a tool to get us started to figure out, like, again, I just want to make sure that the priorities haven't changed, so I'm not focusing on consecutive water study, Buffinville, and all this other stuff when maybe something else has come up where you want to see me spending my time or getting results in a different area.
We want to put that on the February 10th meeting as well?
we certainly could.
Goal setting,
Can
Or
you send us,
review the
can you
matrix?
send us, yeah, can you send us that
Definitely.
for review?
yeah. I'll update it.
You're talking matrix.
Any suggestions as well?
I guess, I know I had mentioned this before to you, Peter, again, but here at a meeting is, we'd certainly like to get more information from Southbridge on, and Abraham's as far as a water price.
I have a phone call with Matt Abrahams tomorrow,
Good, okay.
and we will finalize a proposal to put in front of you that we can get to Southbridge to either complete this or to put a fork in it. I think we have enough data to know what, for Matt Abrahams to, I'm gonna say, back into a rate that we can afford to pay. And again, I talked to Heather about this a little bit today. I think we need, Matt's talked to Heather, so he understands where they have some room in cost savings based on if we took it over, they're not gonna have to do as much work as they're doing now. So I think, I can talk to Matt and ask him to kind of collectively put everything together in a nice package and get us into a rate that we can afford to pay moving forward and present that, again, present it to you for your approval, and then we can take that, probably get a couple commissioners and go sit down with somebody in Southbridge to say, hey, we want to go consecutive, and this is what works for us, and even if you give us this reduced rate, you're still making more money because of the cost savings you have, because you don't have to operate our system anymore.
Is that something that, you're gonna have a meeting with him tomorrow, and then he's gonna put together the info for us? So we'll have that for the next meeting.
Possibly. I can ask Matt if he can have that put together for February
Okay.
10th as well.
Is that something we should have executive session about, or?
I'll, Possibly, we could possibly do an executive session. I'll verify that before we meet to make sure.
Okay.
Because you will be reviewing or changing your intermunicipal water supply agreement.
We're
That
gonna
we
have a
have.
negotiation with
Yeah.
Southbridge on it, right?
Right, I mean, it would, the agreement would become a quarter page then, as they supply the water and we
I don't
pay
think
them.
anything will be a quarter of a page, but
Well.
it should be a little bit simpler. Yep, I will, I'll get that on the next agenda as well.
And since we're talking about Southbridge, Pete, you went to the instructional meeting of the pump station,
Yes,
the startup, okay.
yes.
Do we get keys to that place?
We have not yet, but we should, yes.
Okay, so we should.
As well as, once the O and M manuals are completed, we'll get copies of those as well.
Okay, okay, not that I'm saying we need to operate it tomorrow,
Mhm.
but,
Who is actually operating that now?
Whitewater,
So that's Southbridge
Southbridge.
Water guys?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, so Whitewater has the contract operations
Mhm.
for the system.
Yep.
Through the town of Southbridge.
Same as Southbridge. Same guys as the town of Southbridge.
Correct. They're not Southbridge employees, but it's the same,
Yeah.
yes. Well, no, Whitewater, yes, so Whitewater, if we were to go consecutive, Whitewater will still operate Southbridge, and they will not operate anything in the town of Charlton. Or anything after the pump station heading out. They will still operate, they'll still be responsible for getting us water. Theoretically, in proposed discussions, they'll be responsible for getting us water of a certain quality to the pump station at the old Stearns
Right.
Meat Market. We will take it from there and distribute it up through Berry Corner Road and out through the rest of our system.
and it was, I believe it was agreed that even if we go forward with the consecutive water agreement, that Southbridge would keep US Jan as a customer,
They would keep every customer prior to the,
right?
yes.
Okay,
So that's, Incom, US Gen, all
Yep.
those factories down there.
well, it's one or two,
and then,
again, it's not like
And
an
then,
industrial park, but,
yeah, and then there's the,
Condo complex.
yep,
yeah, yeah, and the big
Apartments
user is
there.
US Jan.
yeah.
Is it still US Jan, Millennium, what do they call
Millennium.
themselves?
It's Millennium.
Millennium, okay.
That can change now, though,
We know it's US Jan.
because
that's why.
the portion of
We know
water
it's
line
US
from
Jan.
Mass Ave to our pump station is now low pressure, so they can actually tie into that. It's not high pressure like it was, because it was coming out of the Mass Ave pump station. So customers prior to the Snake Hill or say the Stearns property pump station can now connect.
Okay, right,
'Cause
so
it's
they
on
can
the-
tap that line.
If there's net, I mean, there really hasn't been much interest because it's mostly small residential stuff and people don't want to connect anyways, but there is the possibility to connect now in that small portion.
Or if there was another larger user.
Sure.
Is the housing complex down there tied into public water?
Which housing complex?
Talking about Katy Brook?
Katy Brook, yeah. Because I thought they weren't, they couldn't tie in, or they didn't tie in, because there wasn't gonna be enough pressure.
Well, there's two Katy Brooks.
Yeah, that's right. I'm confused.
The
Yeah.
the one,
It's called Woodland Walk, I believe, right now?
the one's closest to
That one's
Southbridge.
connected.
It's all tied in?
I believe so.
Wait, the one's closest to Southbridge?
Yes.
Yes. That one's connected.
There's the
Remember-
ones on the 169 side and then the ones on,
No,
Upper
Harrington.
No,
Road.
Gold
Harrington
Gym.
Road side.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there's,
Harrington Road.
No.
The Harrington Road ones couldn't tie in. That's what I thought, because there wasn't enough pressure.
I
There
thought
is.
that was it.
The condo complex between 169 and Harrington Road,
Yeah,
I believe it's called Woodland Walk, it is connected.
Up and lower.
I believe both.
Okay.
Because that was part of, they just did that big renovation 5 or 6 years ago down there.
Right.
I believe they were able to connect at that time. I'm 90%, I can,
I
And
think
there
they
was
had
some
to,
issues there.
right?
There was some
Because
issues.
of the fire suppression, that was the,
I'm not sure, I'm sure there was a few driving factors, because they got a lot of
Right.
state funding to
Yeah.
do that project
because
as
they were,
well.
they were four-family buildings, and if then three or more, you have to do,
yeah.
you have to do sprinklers.
Even, yeah, even
So
back
that
then.
was the issue. You know,
That was
they
a
put
while ago.
pumps in.
That was probably, what, 2013, 14?
Yeah.
But again, I'm 90% certain that they are connected.
Okay, water construction update.
The Bay Path pump station, the foundation for the Bay Path pump station has been poured. The structural slab should be completed this week. The factory completion date of the pump station itself is expected to be within the first week of February, and delivery of that pump station should take place hopefully by the end of February. The Overlook pump station.
If I may, Pete, oh, I'm sorry, go with the overlook as well, go ahead.
The Overlook Pump Station, the preliminary test of the pump station has taken place at the manufacturer and was witnessed by a representative from Kleinfelder. Again, the foundation, the slab, everything's completed, it's covered, they're keeping it protected from the weather. The pump station is expected to be delivered the first week of February, and they're talking about a final operational date, they're saying in the beginning of April. And that will be a key component to getting the water flowing through the whole school loop water line that was installed this past construction season. So the intent is, as soon as this pump station comes online and water starts flowing to the Overlook, is to send water through, start the directional flow of water through that new school loop at that time. Buffinville Public Water Supply.
Pete, let's stop one
Sure.
there for a second. Old Worcester Road, Morton Station, and then the line continues down Old Worcester and turns the corner and goes down to 20.
Yes.
That's right at the corner there. Is that gonna be on or off heading east on Old Worcester Road after Morton Station? Or is that one that we're gonna wait until we have enough flow on 20 to go and turn that on so we can loop it all the way back to Northside Road?
I think that's gonna be determined based on how many of those houses need to connect or are willing to connect. Because if there's no homes willing to connect, they're not
Okay,
gonna
alright.
charge that line east of Morton Station Road.
So
If there's
then-
one or two homes looking to connect, then ExxonMobil's gonna have to figure out how to do that and keep the water quality where it needs to be.
Yeah, which is gonna be a challenge.
Correct.
So,
But again, that's only an 8-inch line, so it's not, at least it's not a 12-inch line.
in Route 20, it's an 8-inch?
Route 20 is a 12, but they wouldn't run, they would turn, they're running the water line all the way out to Route 20.
Right.
At this time, I don't believe there's any plan to activate that all the way to that portion of
From a
Route 20.
dry point of view, they're gonna make the connection out Route 20.
Correct.
Okay. But from an activation statement is, anything that's east of the intersection of Old Worcester Road and Morton Station will not be turned on.
I can't say that because they're offering that water service to those homes.
They haven't gotten.
So if
people
those,
sign up
if
yet
those,
in
if
order
those
to
residents, if they have contamination issues or
If
or they wanna connect, they can activate it only to a certain portion where there's enough homes to keep the water flowing.
Got it.
So again, I think that's gonna be,
I just wanted, again, from an education point of view, and an explanation of anyone out there listening who lives in that area will have an understanding of
okay.
what the challenges are and what's planned and what's also
What,
may not happen.
do you have any idea of what the percentage of people who are able to sign up, who actually signed up at this point in time? You know, there's 150,
I believe there's
160.
200 possible residential connections. I believe Kleinfelder has firm commitment from 30.
That's it, huh?
I don't think they really haven't done the outreach that was done on the Casella loop at this time. So they're still finalizing their service connection agreement with the contractor. And I think once that gets done, they're gonna lean on the contractor and a couple representatives from
Door to door.
Kleinfelder to do the outreach
And
door to
they're,
door.
and they're saying upon completion of that line activation, it's a 1-year period.
Yes, upon activate. So I guess this is where we're gonna have to make sure we keep the residents informed, is that if that water, even though the water line has become active, if Masonic Home goes online, say in April, that 1 year shouldn't start until their subcontractor starts making connections.
is that the way the deal is framed, or it was?
It's gonna, I will get
If you can get
confirmation on that.
clarification, then
Yes.
do we have access to, I mean, we can get the information, but do we have the same, do we have all the information on who the possible connections are from them?
Not, they haven't, Kleinfelder had possible connections or committed?
Possible,
They should be
possible and committed,
Yeah, not at this time.
not at this time.
But
okay.
they should start working with, again, Jim Philbrook was a great asset to Casella and Ludlow Construction in getting commitments through those residents.
Mhm.
So he's reached out to Kleinfelder to kind of get on board and help them with that process as well. So hopefully, I'm not sure, hopefully Kleinfelder will have another outreach meeting soon for residents in that area, and once we hear about that, we'll let them know.
Just, I guess my thought is that at some point in time, those who have not decided to connect, do we send them something and say?
Yes.
Hey, because, I mean, I don't want anybody walking in here 1 year later and
Right.
saying,
Actually-
hey, you guys didn't tell me, you're the water
Right.
and sewer commissioners, and
Russ,
didn't tell me this was
once
an
the,
option.
once the water gets turned on, Maura Johnson, who was the lead engineer for Kleinfelder, who has done quite a bit of survey work herself, survey work knocking on doors. She does have a list of people who have committed, and she does also have a list of, you know, don't step foot on my property. But when that day comes, when the water is on, then the bell goes off 365 days. If you haven't connected or stepped up to connect, then ExxonMobil will not pay for any of the cost of the connection, nor will they pay for the connection fee. So it's $10,000 plus. So the old, you know, you snooze, you lose. So these people, I'm sure that Kleinfelder will be sending that letter out under their obligations with ExxonMobil, and we will do whatever we can. But the majority of that push is gonna come from Kleinfelder and Exxon for these people to sign up.
Well, and I guess that's where my comfort lies in not relying on Exxon
Oh,
to make
right.
sure that
Well, okay.
that's done. I mean.
Yeah, like I said,
Right.
you know, we will do what we can, but also, you know,
Well, I
likelihood
think it's
is.
easy. When that day comes, the 1 year deadline comes, we have that list, we know who's on it and who's not.
Yes.
And then we just send out a letter to those other people and say, hey,
I think
Just so you're
we'll be
aware.
more involved in it. I think once the clock starts ticking for 1 year, we'll do everything we can to get that out to the public. We'll put it on our
Mhm.
website, we'll let everybody know and try and direct any questions to that. And then, again, when 6 months hits, we'll readdress it, say, look, that if you haven't connected, then you're down to 6 months to make that commitment and to get ExxonMobil to pay to make that connection. So I will definitely stay involved, and I think as they move forward with their service contract, we'll get more of the information you're looking for that I can
Yep.
share with you.
okay.
There will-
Snooze, you lose.
There
You're right.
will be somebody, there will be
I
somebody.
guarantee,
sitting
and
in
I want
either
to
one
be
of
able to
those
say,
chairs
I want to be
saying,
able to
"I
say,
didn't
Sue, do we
know."
have the letters on file that we sent to the individual sitting in the
Yeah.
chair before us this evening?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're gonna say yes.
Have
here
a
they
registered
are.
letter with a
And-
sign off,
well,
right?
And also, and I don't mean to be hard and cold about it, but obviously, you'd want to do a public notice in the newspaper. And they're not often read,
Right.
but, and again, the best way to communicate is.
Pete's a big Facebook guy, so he'll
Yeah,
probably send
Facebook,
something
it's
out.
put on, again, it'll put on Facebook.
I'll start a water sewer Facebook page for you guys.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we need,
You just said yes.
yeah.
I am not a big Facebook
Yeah.
person, so
Gotta
I'll
have it.
rely on you guys.
Gotta have it today.
No, you don't have to have it,
Gotta have it today.
you don't have to have it.
Gotta have it today.
Paul and I are out of that, right, Paul?
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm out of it too, include me in that, all right. Other business unknown at time of posting.
Real quick, Buffinville Public Water Supply.
Oh, yeah, but I skipped over that, sorry, Peter.
At our last meeting, we mentioned that we received approval for an additional $200,000 funding from the Water Master Plan grant. Beta Engineering has sent over a scope of work or an agreement for approval, but there was a couple things we wanted to change, so he's gonna kind of rework some stuff, and hopefully I'll have that ready for you for your next meeting.
And what would, because our next phase, is it about drilling wells?
No.
Okay, then,
Well, again, the scope of work that we presented for the funding was approved.
okay,
Most of it is, there's a decent amount of money in there for actual site engineering. So again, as we talked about the site where the 5 wells will go, the elevation is fairly high, it's all gravel.
Okay.
We talked about cutting the knob of that hill down 20 feet. So we want to get
to
through.
save on drilling.
Correct. To save on drilling, to make the site more accessible, and to use that fill in the low spots to get us easier access to that property.
Yep,
So it kind of accomplishes a bunch of different things. So rather than just theoretically talking about that, let's do the site plan, let's get in front of the planning board and get that approved so that we know we can actually do it. As part of that, also do the exercise of showing the anticipated route to get from the site, from the well site to our current infrastructure. That way there, we can go sit with the Army Corps of Engineers and talk to them about where we need their assistance and what we're gonna need to do to work with them as well. So that's probably, I think it was maybe $45,000 for that engineering cost. There was a couple other small costs to do a topographical survey, a wetland study, and some other stuff to do outside of the site plan to assist with that. And there was a majority, I think it was $73,000 was to actually construct the roadway that the site plan would design to get us access to the property. So it'd actually be cutting the hill down, clearing the trees, and then actually we'd be ready to actually start the drilling and develop that site. The only issue is we didn't get approval of this till December, and this is fiscal year 19 funding it's gonna expire on June 30th. So we're on a compressed, probably, 5-month timeline right now. So it's kind of a lot of work to get done in 5 months, but I think we'll at least get it going. And hopefully, if everything goes well, start the construction maybe May or June.
the topo's been on the property. We have a topo. Was the topo done?
No.
We have no topo that was done.
No, we just had a very preliminary survey done just to create the boundary points so we could purchase the portion of the property we purchased. The topo was not completed.
Should we have it flown?
Not that area.
Okay, there's not many pines? A lot of
It's
oaks
just
there.
too, it's
There's a lot of pines
too
there.
erratic, and
It's
there
all-
are a lot of big pines.
Yeah,
on
there's
that.
a lot of depth changes.
That lower side. But those hills and valleys won't be picked up.
If you look at the
That's
topo that's
I
been
don't-
done
I
by
don't think so.
satellite that you can see, it's not accurate.
Okay,
You know, sometimes you pull up
yep,
one of the topo maps and it shows
Oh,
the
yeah.
contours, you walk it with that and it's quite a bit off, especially where the high point is and then where the low point doesn't
Hills
show
and
up at
valleys
all.
over there would never show up on a satellite. I don't think.
big pine groves always have trouble on the area.
no, I know, I realize that, yep.
And those deep valleys and stuff, those are
Deep
yeah, yeah, and sudden too, I mean, they're just,
drop-offs.
yeah.
Knobs of gravel.
So we could best hope for, yeah, which would serve two purposes.
Across the lake, that's what they have.
One, get them out of there, and then two, lower that whole thing down, and
Right.
make it less to pump,
Okay, so now,
right?
Yeah, it's the plan.
other business unknown, Tom? Okay, now, we got a line missing, superintendent report. Any report? Where's the superintendent?
We don't have the superintendent report anymore. All of that is within your agenda. We were
Okay,
advised by
okay.
the open meeting law not to do a superintendent's report because it doesn't specify what's gonna be discussed, so they asked that
No.
instead of doing that, they recommend that we
Yeah.
itemize
Or
what
what
will
are
be
they gonna do?
discussed.
They're gonna put us in jail and throw the key away? What are they gonna do?
Only the chairman.
Oh, the chairman, that's okay, go ahead. I can handle it.
Fair. Let's put it on then.
Go ahead, go
All
ahead.
in favor?
Second.
Okay, that was quick.
Unanimous.
So the open meeting law, seriously though, the open meeting law seminar recommended that I not do that. Because it does not specify.
So who from open meeting law was giving you this?
I forget the lady.
It's on YouTube, the town accountant's YouTube TV.
It's like, I think I might even ask that question.
What do you think, Ralph, looking at orange?
What do I think? Oh, dear me. Good. Yeah, I'm still going. Did everyone sign that thing last week or whatever? Did everyone choose to sign it?
Oh,
I know I didn't sign it, nor will I sign it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah, that you read all the rules and you understand them and sign it.
and that you received the paperwork?
What?
You received the paperwork that was attached?
Yes. Yeah. No, some people signed it, didn't they? Most of them? Yeah.
I signed it.
I said,
I'm not signing it. Something
Could-
goes
could
wrong,
be
it's the
an
first thing that comes up. Yes, Mr. Jennings, this is your signature right here. You read it all. And in that was on line 432, says you couldn't do that, and you did it.
well,
I don't know, I don't remember getting elected saying you had to sign all that stuff. Sorry.
the town doesn't want my free service at that point in time. I'll
That's,
doubt.
exactly.
You know.
Do we have anything else? Oh, wait, we can't talk about anything else. It's not on here.
I'll make a motion.
Meeting adjourned.
But even if it's on, no.
I'll second Russ's motion.
Well, I don't know if I'm accepting it yet. No, only kidding. All right, all those in favor of adjourning for the evening?
Aye.
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 Aye, unanimous.